Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we have a Tenable Knives doubleheader, starting off with the Tenable Knives Rei. This is a karambit maker design, and overall I think this is a fantastic size, coming in at 7.48 inches long with a 3.24 inch modified clip point blade of 14C 28N steel, one of my favorite budget stainless steels. This particular version has a nice raw stone wash finish. Another thing that I love to see, it hides wear very well, gives it a nice rustic look that goes along with these micarta scales. You have a little bit of jimping with a little ramp right there, but I don't really find that to be too functional. I just overshoot it and sit right here in the saber grip or hammer grip. You got a nice top swedge on this one that thins the tip out a little bit, so you got a nice piercer there, and this is going to be a very versatile blade shape because you have a very low tip that is in line with the center of that pivot, so it's very easy to get the tip onto things to do your fine detail work. And like I said earlier, piercing is going to be a breeze. We'll talk about the thumb studs later on. With this one, you have a flat grind that comes down to around 17 to 18 thousandths behind the edge with a 20 degrees per side edge bevel. I think it's time we do a little bit of real world cut test to see how this one performs. This one came very, very sharp out of box, and it seems to be slicing very well. It's going to be a very versatile blade shape. You don't have a crazy belly on this one, so it should be a fun one to test as long as the edge holds up. I think this is the third Tenable knife now that I've tested on the channel, or that I've tested in general, and so far, you know, I've been pretty impressed, especially at their price points. And I love the fact that we have, you know, more affordable options to some of the premium concept knives. And yeah, I've been enjoying carrying this one a good bit. Now we're testing the ergos, and the light pressure, it's very comfortable. Trying different grips and stuff. Now, whenever I started really bearing down, I did start to feel the top of the pocket clip. It wasn't terrible or anything. You see me kind of adjusting right there, but I was trying to see where it was coming from, and it was the very top part of that pocket clip, I guess where it was situated. Now, watch how easily it goes through the 1/2 inch sisal rope. Before I start speeding it up, I mean, it is going through like a hot knife through butter. That belly is just the right amount to where I can easily make these cuts on the flat cutting surface. And wow, this edge has a ton of bite to it. And it is making sharp work of this. You know, I was hoping it would do well, but I never expected it to be this slicey. I'm not sure what their edge bevel set at on this one. It doesn't feel like it's super thick or anything. And so far, so good, man. I'm pretty happy with the results on this one. The micarta is nice and grippy. It's comfortable in that pinch grip. You can see me swapping to the pointer finger grip every now and again. That just shows you that it's very sharp, for me at least. That's a dead giveaway whenever I'm testing the knives on the sisal rope. But yeah, very, very nice job. We went through that 100 cuts or whatever it was very, very fast. And like I said, you can get that tip down very easily. It's a little scalpel up there at the tip, but it's not an overly dainty tip. That swedge thins it out a little bit, but it's still got enough meat behind it to where you can maybe do a little twisting and turning with it. But look how fast. Look at this, going through the 10-ounce denim like it's not even there. So excellent job. I can give this one an A++ for performance, no doubt. Well, I thought this would perform really well, and it also has a phenomenal dual deployment action on this one. So you have flipper tab, no jimping, but the light switch, it works great. Nice fall shut action, riding on K-tronic bearings. Those thumb studs work fantastic as well. You can reverse flick it also. Very nice, positive, and crisp flip, along with that nice clean break on the thumb studs. You do have dual thumb studs, so you can easily actuate the knife left-handed also. Move on to the handle area. This particular version has blue canvas micarta that has the actual canvas sticking up. So it's nice and grippy while being very comfortable in hand. You got a nice ergonomic handle. Anytime I see this little drop down right there, it conforms to the palm really well. The pocket clip stayed out of the way of my palm during use. The only grip that's not super comfortable for me is this pull grip because of the flipper tab and just the way the handle's set up. Now, it's not terrible. You could definitely do it, but not a grip I do that often. One thing that I find pretty comical is these knives are made by Concept Knives. This is their more budget-friendly side of Concept, and you have a Torx T8 for your pivot, and lo and behold, you have Torx T8 for your body screws. Come on, Concept, why won't you do this on your premium knives? Makes no sense. And they're nice, crisp Torx heads there. You have flow-through construction, 2 hourglass standoffs, so if you need to blow this out with compressed air, you can easily do that. You have a deep carry pocket clip. It's not inset into the micarta, however, you do have a flat panhead screws, and I haven't noticed it getting hung up on the seam of my jeans yet. For me, that's the perfect amount of ramp. It didn't poke me in my palm when using it, and it goes in and out of the pocket really, really nicely. And that deep carry sits fairly deep in the pocket. Now you do have a flipper tab, so if you stick your phone in there, it is going to rub against that. Holds it in there nicely, and it's also reversible. Your stainless steel scales are flush with the micarta, and you have heavy skeletonization there to bring down the weight as much as possible in the top and bottom liners, bringing this weight to a manageable 3.8 ounces. I think that's perfect. Not to mention, it's perfectly balanced, so it's going to feel a lot more nimble in hand during use. Your lockup sitting at around 50% or so and 100% underneath that tang. So you have a nice positive engagement. Access to the lock bar is fantastic because the show side scale choil right here goes down lower than the actual lock bar, so I can easily get my thumb in there to disengage that lock. And this one has a nice and secure lockup, giving you confidence that it'll stay open during use. Now time for some size comparisons to some similar price knives. We have the Ontario Rat 1 and 2. It's in the middle of those. And it's almost identical in length to the Tenable Prometheus. And it's a little bit bigger than the Tenable Anomaly. And lastly, it's just a hair shorter than the Kaiser Mini Grouper. And it's just a hair longer than the CJRB Pyrite. Now for my nitpicks and complaints, I definitely wish it would have given us a little bit more of a sharpening choil there. I sharpened this one up after I finished testing it, and you can see I went up on that plunge grind because I didn't have enough room. However, it's an easy fix being it has an internal stop pin. Also, it'd been nice to see that clip inset into the micarta. However, it's not a deal breaker at this price point to me. So in conclusion, I absolutely love this one. These come in at $56. I think that's a no-brainer. It's a nice and comfortable knife. It has fantastic action, nice and smooth, nice and snappy. You got a nice versatile blade, and the 14C held up really, really well. Now it makes me want to buy the premium version. Next up, we have the Tenable Knives Rafe L. I definitely contemplating on buying the premium version of this one. However, the premium version had the little bottle opener on the blade. I didn't really like that too much, so I'm glad they took that away for the more affordable version. The Rafe L is similar in size to the Tenable Rei. This one comes in at 7.47 inches with a 3.19 inch sheep's foot blade of 14C 20-10 steel. It has fullers on both sides of the blade that you can use for deployment. We'll talk about that later. This particular version has a satin finish. They also have a stone wash variant and a coated variant. You have some pretty aggressive wide cut jimping. Definitely don't like that at all. However, I can creep up and overshoot that if I like, and that's pretty much how I did it if I didn't have gloves on. That's something that I never like to see because it's just very uncomfortable for my hands. It really messes with the neuropathy in my hands. You do have a well-executed sharpening choil that should give you a good bit of sharpening light before it'll widen up at the heel. Now, even though this is a big bruiser of a folder, you have a chunky 15 thousandths blade stock thickness. However, you still have a nice high flat grind that they still managed to get down to around 17 to 18 thousandths behind the edge. And this particular one came with a 22 degrees per side edge bevel. I think it's time we see what this one can do. And I have to admit, I was a little concerned because this has some pretty thick blade stock, but it's got a decent height flat grind and seems to have pretty good edge geometry because when it came sharp out of box, and this one is slicing way better than I anticipated. This blade should be very versatile. It looks like the type of blade shape that I prefer because the versatility is usually outstanding on these because of that gradual belly to that tip, low tip on this one, and you got a fairly stout tip. So if you need to use this one a little bit harder, you should be a-okay because 14C is a very tough steel. Now testing the ergos, and I will say I did kind of choke up in that flat spot on the scales, and it was pretty darn comfortable. Now, I don't like the spaced out jimping. That is pretty uncomfortable. However, I can overshoot it if I want to hold it in saber grip. But most of the time I'm in that hammer grip, so it was comfortable for the most part. But now onto the 1/2-inch sisal rope, and just as I expected, I can easily make these cuts on a flat cutting surface. And being that you have the extra heft on the thicker blade stock, and the fact that this one's nice and sharp, and I'm guessing it has a fairly shallow edge bevel, it's performing nice. It's slicing through this with minimal effort because of that extra heft. And you can see I'm using that pointer finger grip. That was pretty much the most comfortable grip, and swapping back and forth. Now you can get, before your knuckles or the scales touch, you can get almost the entire edge. I would say about a little over 3/4 of the edge onto the flat cutting surface before you contact the scales or your knuckles. But yeah, outstanding job. You know, this is now I think the 4th Tenable that I've tested, and this one and the one before the Rei that I tested before this one just performed great. Yeah, I love seeing that, especially at these price points, you know, under the $100 price point. And yeah, so far I'm enjoying this one. It's gonna be, you can use that tip very easily. That's why I said it's very versatile, and it made short work of the leather. And once again, I'm using that pointer finger grip. So yeah, A-OK on the performance. You know, I thought it would slow down on some of this stuff, but that flat grind comes down thin enough to where it passed through everything without a problem whatsoever. So excellent job once again. That was fantastic performance, and I really enjoyed it. When it comes to the deployment of this knife, this is a 3-trick pony here. You have those fullers that you can reverse flick off of. You have this little nub right here in the back to do a traditional backside flip. And even though it's kind of uncomfortable, you do have this portion right here with that jimping that I can pretty easily front flip it also. Let's see, I can do the reach around, but it has a detent that's dialed perfect for all 3 deployments, making them nice and snappy. And it's a pretty much fall shut knife, riding on cage ceramic ball bearings. Once you clear that detent, the heft of this blade pretty much carries it down the rest of the way. You can also slow roll it if you like, and you can thumb flick it if you catch it just right. It's pretty impressive because it's definitely not easy to get 3 different deployments dialed in perfectly, especially on a budget knife. So let's close it up, take a look at the handle area. This particular version has black and gray layered G10, with the gray portion right here having a peel ply texture, offering the perfect amount of grip without being uncomfortable. And the large chamfers give it a contoured feeling in hand. The thickness on this one is 0.55, so a little above average. I found it to be very comfortable. Choke back, and you have a little flat portion that allows you to choke up on that blade. That's where I like to sit. That way I'm closer to that edge so I can control what I'm doing a lot better. One thing I thought that was pretty cool, being this is a budget knife, as you can see, you have a Torx T8 pivot there, and your body screws are hidden underneath the scale. That's why they have these 2 screws right here for the clip. Now, one thing I have to correct on the Rei is the pocket clip screws are T6. Not something I care about at all, because you don't have to remove the pocket clip. Now, on this one, you do have to remove the pocket clip to get to those body screws, and they are T6. Definitely not going to be a deal breaker for me, especially as much as I like this knife. That brings me to my next thing. We do have a tip-up, deep carry pocket clip that is left or right-handed carry. You have a flow-through construction just like on the Rei, and 2 hourglass standoffs in the back. No lanyard hole in this one either. You could possibly tie a lanyard to this back standoff. Same ramp as the Rei, and it goes in and out of the pocket just like that one as well. All you have sticking out of the pocket is this top portion right here. Being that this one's a pretty chunky boy with that chunky blade stock, and they pocketed out those stainless steel liners all the way through, as you can see. You have your G10 exposed right there to bring down the weight as much as they possibly could on this one. I think they did a good job keeping the weight down to 4.9 ounces. I never felt like this one was cumbersome in the pocket, and I carried this one a good bit. Not sure if you can see that or not. The lockup on the Rafe L is around 40 to 50% or so. Access to the lock bar is good because the show side comes down a little bit lower. I can easily get my thumb in there to disengage that lock. And when it comes to that line of lock engagement, this thing is a bank vault. I cannot muscle any movement up or down, left or right. That's why I like to see that liner lock has 100% engagement underneath the blade tang, ensuring that it's going to stay open on you during use. And for some size comparisons, it's a hair shorter than the Tenable Prometheus, and it's pretty much identical in length to the Tenable Rafe. It's in the middle of the Ontario Rat 1 and 2, and it's a good bit bigger in all dimensions to the Tenable Knives Anomaly. Now for some quick nitpicks and complaints, I would have much preferred fine cut jimping here. That's always uncomfortable for my hands. But like I said, I overshot it pretty much the entire time unless I had gloves on. Wish they would use TA construction everywhere, but not a deal breaker for me. And just like on the Ray, it'd be nice if they inset that clip into the frame, but they did countersink those screws. When it comes to the Tenable Knives Rafe L, I absolutely love it and can highly recommend it. They come in at $60 for the G10 variants, and your micarta variants come in at $64. I definitely think it's worth that. You're getting a very thick chunk of 14C 28N. It's got great action and a highly versatile blade there. Same goes with the Tenable Knives Rei. And as you can see, we have two micarta variants with stonewash blades. I bought these two. They sent these two to me. If you're interested in the Tenable Knives Rei or the Tenable Knives Rafe L, I will have both of these linked down in the description. I will also link their premium counterparts just in case you're interested in one of those. If you have any questions about either one of the knives, feel free to ask me down below and I'll do my best to get back with you. I hope every one of y'all is having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one.